Oops. Oh, there we go. Okay. So once again, we are recording. I want to welcome back my good friend here, Nick Garber, former Army Ranger, current Border Patrol, Border Protection, I believe is the proper term now, Border Protection Agent? Or what is the proper term?
Still, our official title is Patrol Agent.
I can't hear a word you're saying, my friend.
Hold on.
Let me try something here. Let's try that now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think that might have been on my end.
Okay. Yeah, our official title is Patrol Agent once you graduate the academy.
Okay. So, obviously we talked a little bit about yours and my background last time we had you on and whatnot. And, I'm not really certain that a lot of people understand what it is that people like you and I see when we see buildings burning down and neighborhoods going to shit. That, when we signed up, it was to protect those very people, the American citizens, from this kind of shit happening here. I mean, that's why we go to foreign lands and do the shit we do there.
Yeah, that's why we do the away games.
Exactly. We don't do home games. I want to find out your views on a couple of, stupid things, obviously, like memes and things like that have been going around, because obviously you and I have discussed it, or at least been on the same threads about a couple things.
Usually with Brian.
I love Brian. Come on now.
I love Brian too. What I love about Brian is that it challenges my viewpoints and ideologies. And if your viewpoints and ideologies aren't challenged, then they're not really much of viewpoints and ideologies. It's good to challenge your belief system, and it either validates it or it opens up the path for education and understanding.
Absolutely, because once you're not able to change your mind or at least question your viewpoints, it turns into dogma, and then dogma is hard to get out.
I mean, the Crusades were fought over that shit, but I digress.
Right. So the first thing I want to get your opinion on is what I like to say, the false comparison between the Boston Tea Party and what's going on right now. What would be your first reaction to that from a law enforcement point of view and a former soldier?
There are similarities to, I would say, the inspiration between both incidences. Okay, Boston Tea Party, taxation without representation, right? That's what I love about this country. We wanted to start a war over a 2% tax on a breakfast beverage that wasn't even coffee.
Right?
So
well, better than tea since 1773, my friend.
Exactly. I kind of see the point of the meme. They're trying to make that comparison of not exactly taxation without representation, but they don't feel like they're represented in this government. Right. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm not a black man. I've never been a black man. I'm never going to be able to understand what it's like to be a black person in this country. But I also like to think that we've evolved as human beings, as a society. I mean, we have our base root core instincts to break shit. I mean, that's just human beings, and it's definitely American. That is the American way. But I think we've gotten to a point now in society where we can actually sit down and talk about things and discuss them. Of course, you jump on Facebook or Twitter; those places are toxic right now, with nobody wanting to discuss anything. My biggest issue with that is that was to protest a foreign entity. So if that community feels that the United States as a whole is a foreign entity to them, then that is going to be problematic, and we're not going to be able to solve that problem peacefully, And what I fear, based on what I'm seeing, is that this is going to turn into an armed conflict, and I don't want that. I don't want to hurt American citizens. It's not why I do what I do or done what I've done.
Right.
I signed up to protect all people, and I don't care about the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, your religion. It's not going to stop me from protecting you.
Just don't touch me with keepy and we're fine.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, for me, I think the worst part of the comparison is this. The Boston Tea Party was quite literally a surgical strike on a specific target with a specific goal in mind.
With no collateral damage other than the tea and no casualties.
Exactly. When they were done proving their point, Boston was not in flames. And
right.
That is my major, major disagreement with this. Now,
no, I agree with you on that.
Right. And now I'm going to take probably what will be considered a very unpopular position here, but it's one that I truthfully believe in, just because growing up in Nicaragua and what we did, I can see the idea behind it. But I know that this will be unpopular probably here in the States, but I'd really like to hear your take on it. For me, the only logical thing that they did that night was to take the 3rd precinct. They were at that moment venting their ire on the culpable party, at least in their mind. Whether they were totally culpable or not, let's not argue that at this point, but they at least focused their anger on the right entity.
Right.
I probably would have been a little bit more supportive of their rioting, because right now it's rioting, it's not a protest, but of their anger. If, like, let's say if they had attacked, let's say, police precincts, city hall, and something else, but whatever was the city government, to protest what they believe were bad policies, whatever you want to call it, good old boys club, whatever.
Yeah.
But the second that they stepped into burning down housing, schools, whatever else, they lost all support.
Local businesses, you know. No, I agree with you on that. If had they focused on the government infrastructure, which I don't really support, destroying shit just because you're in,
Right. No.
But had they focused on what they thought was the culpable agents within that situation, City Hall, the mayor's office, Precinct 3, that kind of stuff, showing up in mass, protesting, that is their God-given right. That is their right as an American,
Right.
And I support it 100%. I may not always agree with what they're protesting. This time I actually agree. What happened to Mr. Floyd was, it makes everybody that's ever worn a badge cringe. And it makes it harder for us to do this job, because now we're seen as the enemy, and we don't have a very good PR system going on anyway. We're pigs, we're cops, we're donut eaters, anyone that wears a badge and operates in a law enforcement.
Yeah, right. I mean, you got
signed up for
popular people like, oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, we know what we signed up for. As soon as we put that badge and gun on, we painted a target on our back, and we're okay with that, because we want to operate within our community, because we live in the communities that we operate in.
Right.
I live on the border. So I try to be a good steward to the community, not only for my agency, but as a member of this community. And a lot of officers feel that way. Officers and agents, we live where we work, and it's a dangerous job, and we do things that are sometimes unpopular.
Now, that was one thing that I think they brought up in Minneapolis, was that a lot of the police officers that are on that force are not from the community. They're from outside communities. They're coming in, so they don't have a vested interest in that community. Later on, though, I think it was yesterday, the chief of police and the city, what do they call them, the city supervisor or something like that, were at site of the murder, let's just call it what it was, the murder of Floyd. And, well, look, I mean, you and I have both been in those situations. You a lot more often and more than I have. I mean, mine was what, 14 fucking years ago?
Right.
Kids in people's houses, grabbing guys, throwing them to the ground, doing all these things. Those emotionally charged moments where you're like, it's me or this asshole. I can understand where the aggressiveness started.
Yeah.
In that scuffle. No, fucker, I'm going home to my babies tonight. You're going to jail. I think where everybody who's ever been put in that position starts to cringe is when you're counting the seconds of him having his knee directly on the guy's neck.
Yeah, that goes against a lot of training protocols. And you know, a lot of our stuff is dictated by the Department of Justice and the FBI. You know, there's been a push to make the training nationalized, and we're achieving that. You know, at least on paper. You know, the doctrine's been put out there. You know, rest techniques, things like that. What I like about my agency is that when things like this happen, instantaneously goes into the curriculum for our next use of force training cycle.
Sure.
You know, we'll watch the video. We're like, and then we pick it apart. You know, because a lot of things that people don't understand is that when an officer is charged with misconduct or breaking policy or anything that, you know, is going to get him inside the legal system, the first thing they look at is, would any other officer with the same amount of training and experience do what that person did?
That's interesting.
You know, they break it down Barney style. Okay, this is your situation. This is what's going on. This is what happened. With you being of sound mind and body in the same situation, was that what you do? And you answer honestly. It's like, I watched that freaking dude put that knee on the neck, and he was on him for like, what, 8-9 minutes? No, it doesn't take that long. Especially for, what is it, counterfeiting or fraud or something like that was what they were there for.
Defense. I mean, it doesn't matter what he did. It's non-violent.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and to pull the guy out of the car, and yeah, I mean, he may have resisted, but still, once you got him secured, you get him up. You don't sit.
I mean, we didn't even do that shit to the guys we fucking caught, dude, after Colonel Wood was killed. And we assaulted that house. We found all that shit in their house, dude. And those guys were in fucking flex cups up against the 113, being left alone for the most part. I mean, I'm not going to say that we always held the high ground because, you know, one of our buddies got killed. Sorry, you know, anger comes out and someone's going to get their ass kicked. But for the most part, in a war zone, we kept these prisoners safer than I saw there. And that was kind of bad.
We'd get in there, we'd bag them and zip them and sit them down if we were going to be there for a while as we continue to do our sweeps. You know, exactly. This situation is no different. I mean, you had 4 cops there. One guy kneeling on that. Well, they're like, "Oh, that's not an approved arrest technique." It kind of is. When we prone a guy out and we have his arms spread like an airplane so we can get the cuffs on him. Yeah, our knee is, one knee is in his rib cage, the other knee is just underneath his neck in between the shoulder blades.
Exactly. Control.
You know, adrenaline pumping. Yeah, but once we get that dude secured, you know, we roll him over, we sit him up, or we get him in the car or the unit, and that's it. Once he's secured, he's secured. You know?
Yeah. I mean, everything needs to be done from a perspective of safety all around. But I mean, especially in this situation, I mean, there's been those horrific videos coming out of people getting ran over and dragged and whatnot. Okay. Let me say categorically right now, I posted those videos to the site with disclaimers of graphic content. Now, I also said that I don't have a lot of sympathy for the dude getting dragged or the dude getting run over. Zero. Okay. They literally, if you listen to that video, you hear him at the very beginning of the video with the FedEx truck. Hear a young lady in the crowd say, "Light the tires on fire." Okay. So, I mean, okay, I don't feel bad. Number 2, that guy could never have known that there was a dude stuck in his back tires, you know, as he's trying to unass the area. But they chose to be there, just like, you know, we chose to put on the uniform. You chose to serve afterwards, you know, with CBP. They accepted those risks. Mm-hmm. Where my heart breaks is the mother that has to watch that video of her son get dragged 2 miles, or the dude that got backed over and then ran over a second time because they were trying to break the dude's windows.
Yeah.
I've never in my life, you know, and you being a father, we can both, if I saw my son get ran over like that, I would fucking lose my mind. I mean, I literally would be in the loop next day.
In a multitude of ways.
Yeah.
You know, as a parent, you know, it's like, first of all, did I raise my child right to put themselves in a situation like that? You know, I've raised my kids to stand up for injustice, stand up for themselves, and be a voice for the voiceless, and to protect those who can't protect themselves. You know,
absolutely.
You know, it's I come from a military family, you know, and that's how I was raised. It's how my cousins were raised. That's why we're all vets. You know, there's a few of us that couldn't serve, but they try to serve in other capacities. You know, it's just there was an ideology installed in the Garber family. You know, if you have the means to defend the defenseless, you do it. If you have the means to help someone that can't help themselves, you do it. You know, selfless service was like a big thing in my family. You know, so it's something that I've raised my children to take to heart. So seeing a video like that, if it was my kid, first of all, yeah, I'm gonna be saddened that and heartbroken that my kid's injured or dead or you know. But I'm also gonna be it's gonna be a complex mix of emotions. I'm also gonna be disappointed in my child for doing.
Where did I wrong? What did I do? Why are they there? You know, all sorts of crazy things that go through your head. I can imagine. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, and that's kind of where I would definitely. It would break me. It would break me down, you know, with all the emotions, you know. It's like, okay, where did I go wrong? Why did that person have to do it? You know, and it would I would be very confused, and it would take me a long time to process that. So my heart goes out to those people, but at the same time, had you not done what you just did, you wouldn't be fucked up right now.
True. I mean, I don't know, Nick, if I ever shared with you probably the worst day in my life over in Iraq, but I mean, it does bear a little bit of on this subject. It was the 31st of December after the Y had gotten mortared, and we went in, you know, in force. And if I choke up a little bit, I apologize, but you know, I apologize, but you understand.
That was a bad goddamn day.
Yeah. But we had sent everybody into the houses, and it was me, basically the oldest dude, you know, in my little section. So it didn't matter that I was a specialist. I mean, everyone else, even the sergeants, were 8 fucking years younger than me, and everyone still looked at me. They were like, you know, what are we gonna do? You know. And while we were there, there was a 12-year-old kid that popped out of one of these houses, and you know, just started doing what they normally, you know, fuck you, Nica, you know. Blah, 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 the rest of it. And so I did what we all do, you know, hey, get the fuck inside, get inside, you know, point away with the weapon and whatnot. I think obviously the kid didn't care. But when I got behind the belt fed and pointed at him, you know, the kid ran away scared, and I was like, good, problem solved. About 5 minutes later, the kid comes back around the corner at the head of a 300-person mob. And they're marching right at our Humvees, and no amount of me showing them the weapon, no amount of me getting behind this, and nothing's happening. Right. And the mob is getting to within 150 meters of our position. And one thought comes in my head. Kill the head, the body dies. Now, my daughter had just been born 6 months before this. No, I take that 7 months before this.
Right.
I'm a brand new daddy, have barely seen my daughter. And the first instinct I have is I have to take this kid out.
Yeah.
You know, and I made my peace with it. You know, I'm praying the entire time. I got this mix of emotions in my head. And I go, and I made the decision. I squeezed the trigger. And I don't know what the fuck happened, dude, but in the last split second, something in me, or the Lord, or whatever you want to call it, pulled my rifle just an inch to the left and ended up shooting like right at the kid's feet to the left of him. And that one shot was enough to disperse the entire crowd.
Yeah.
And thank God. I mean, thank God. Because I don't know if I could live with myself right now. I mean, honestly, that would probably be the biggest thing that I would have in my mind. Now, would that shot have been justified? In my mind, yes.
Yeah. They had means, opportunity, intent, if you look at it from a law enforcement perspective. And the military looks at things very similar. They just have different words for it. But you would have been absolutely justified. Now, just because it's justified, was it the right, would have been the right call?
Morally. Now, this is where I'm seeing that it has a little bit of bearing on what we're looking at. This was a country that was raised under Baathists, basically told everybody America's Satan, we suck, whatever.
Right, the Great Satan.
The Great Satan and all that. So when we came there and they felt oppressed, I could understand a little bit why part of the population jumped up against us.
Right.
So, but then there was the hardcores that were raised in a hateful way, that were not given any other chance. And I think that that's kind of where we're at right now. You've got this generation of Latinos, blacks, and all these other races. Primarily, we see it through the blacks, because at least in Latino houses, we tell you, be careful, don't mouth off to the cops. And if I see you get arrested, I'm beating your ass.
Right.
The parents are going to turn to the cops and be like, hey, pendejo, what are you doing? They might do that, but the second you get home, we're catching an ass whooping, which I don't see happen so much in other cultures. Unfortunately, right now we have these black youths that are being told that it's okay for them to do this. They're justified. They have every right. Now, with that mindset, what are your thoughts on the idea that outside people are now hijacking these protests and turning them more violent than they would have been?
I think something like this has been organized for a while. They were just waiting for an incident.
Okay.
With you. We've seen Antifa for the last, 3 years, 4 years, even though they're not a validated or at least as we consider a well-organized organization. They just, it's splinter cells operating under a united banner, and they take credit for it. We're Antifa. And what I love about extremists is that they're really good with wordplay. They're really good with language.
Yeah.
So if I name my organization anti-fascist, or Antifa for short, if you oppose me in my actions, then you are pro-fascist. You are the fash. You are the Nazi. And it just somewhere inside their psychology, inside their brain and how they think, that justifies their behavior towards whatever they're doing. So if I don't like that even though you're calling yourself anti-fascist and you're acting like a fascist, me calling you out makes me the bad guy for those that believe in what they're doing. You
of
can't
course,
beat
they're
that
out there Nazi, and Nazis are the universal evil on this planet. You cannot, I don't know if you can walk up to any normal human and say, do you hate the Nazis, and have them say, no, they're the best thing on the planet,
Yeah, and if you do find someone that approves it, it's a very small fucking percentage of the population. Those people are, they were raised in hate anyway.
Right.
So,
and they only watch the first part of America History X, where the Nazis are doing all the, bad stuff. They don't watch the redemption at the end.
The transition of that character realizes, I was fucked up, and my way of life and my way of thinking has changed. Those are people that are truly bigoted. They are incapable of changing their thought, unless something traumatic happens, but you do see instances of, people that think like that are rescued, saved, or helped by people of color that they claim to hate. And then that little seed, that little inception, that little seed plants in the back of their head, and it grows, and sometimes it infects the others around them, in the most positive way. Sometimes they just leave that community and just want something better for themselves because they don't want to live in hate anymore.
Now, there's been a little bit of something else that I've seen, especially now that the riots have gone into LA again. Fuck, how many times does LA need to burn down?
San Diego. They closed down the Coronado Bridge yesterday, and parts of I-5.
Jeez, man.
That's why that post. I'm like, if I get called in on my day off to do riot duty, I'm gonna be pissed.
Right?
I'm on that.
Hickory sticks.
Yeah, I'm on that.
I was telling you.
The mobile, what do they call it? I know the acronym. I can't remember what it stands for. It's like Mobile Field Force. That's what it's called. Essentially, it's a riot control team.
Right.
And they were calling us out yesterday while we were on the line. They're like, hey, be prepared. And they're calling out my star number, which for those that don't know what that is, it's like a badge number. Our badges don't actually have numbers on them. We have star numbers. So our call sign, for the vets out there. So we're out on the line about 3 hours into shift. Shit's popping off in middle of downtown and stuff like that. And they're like, "Hey, be prepared." And I'm like, "Okay."
All right.
Like,
yeah, I remember a little bit of riot training that we went through at the 184, dude, at Alpha Company. And I was like, dude, I would never want to be on the other side of this. I mean, shields and long ass fucking hardwood sticks and 2 echelons, dude. Fuck no. I don't want to be anywhere near that. I think, get your ass knocked out and tuned up.
Oh, yeah. Like, hell no. Like, the riots that we went to in Kosovo, but we had a Bradley behind us, too, which is very scary to bring to that type of situation. It's definitely a deterrent. It's like, I'll behave, or Mr. Bushmaster here is going to have playtime.
Yeah. Yeah, that 25 Mike is going to talk to you a little bit. Yeah. No, and, I agree. Now, this is kind of where I think people are always going to have that. This is what everyone's going to split. Is how did we respond? And how should have we responded? And I mean, I can tell you what I think. I think after the first night of burning, National Guard should have been activated. They should have been brought in. They should have let the fucking poor privates post up with, even if it's empty mags in their freaking weapons, and not post up without a mag and have people heckle you the whole night, I mean, what do you think would have been any of the justification for not moving in a stronger position?
When it comes to that, I mean, I've worked for the Office of the Adjutant General. I've worked at the head of the state military department, and the bureaucracy there is just ridiculous. Because the military department will start implementing a plan as soon as it starts happening. The J5, the J6, the J7, everything. They're all coming together and they're doing their joint planning. Right. Anytime something like this happens, what we're waiting on is the go-ahead from the governor. From the ultimate, from the commander-in-chief of the state, to say, all right, go ahead and deploy your forces. And when you're dealing with a politician versus a military man, like General Baldwin's a damn genius.
Oh, I love General Baldwin.
He was my battalion commander when I got out of active duty and joined the 184. And shit, man, I'd follow that dude to hell.
Right?
Second only to Colonel Fry.
Oh yeah. But I mean, could you imagine the powerhouse team if they both were like leading a company each?
Oh, it would be the most beautiful mayhem that God has ever placed on the earth.
Oh, yeah.
The enemy would be like, "What the hell did we do so wrong to bring this upon me?" Like, you done fucked up, but you did.
Right. Well, yeah, you did. I mean, shit. The second the military's got to get involved, you done fucked up anyway, dude. I mean,
but
this is what. Here's another question. Here's a really good one. Okay, so we have posse comitatus, right? I'm hoping I'm getting the right term here. For not being able to use federal troops on U.S. land, which is why we have the National Guard.
Exactly, because they
now, right, and now I understand that during the riots and Watts in the '60s and whatnot, and other situations, 101st was deployed. Now there was talk, and I know the other people that were like on the Brotherhood of the Blue Cord side and whatnot, and other veteran side were saying, yeah, we got alerted at 82nd. We're standing by to deploy. Now, being that you've with the state government and whatnot in that capacity, how bad does shit have to get for you to call out the big boys instead of the nasty girls?
It's got to be pretty bad. When you want to start, violating things that have been commonplace for hundreds of years, like posse comitatus. We didn't want to. Even our forefathers were like, no, we don't want to use federal troops on, as a police force, because that's what we've just been dealing with. That's what we just fought. We don't want to do that shit. And that's why we don't have a king. There's a lot of things. I mean, our forefathers were very intelligent. They studied every bit of and every type of government you could possibly imagine and took the best parts and left up. I mean, is it a perfect system? No, but it's probably as close as you're going to get to it.
Oh,
dangerous freedom. You know,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. You know, I'd rather have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery. But getting on to that point, how bad do things have to get? I think we're getting to that point. If you look at the map of where all these, well, the riots at this point, you know, some places have been protesting peacefully, and I definitely appreciate it as a law enforcement agent. Yeah, protest. I'll walk with you. I don't give a shit.
Right.
You know, I don't think there's a person in this country right now that isn't outraged over what happened to Mr. Floyd.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, but justice. I mean, you didn't see it with Eric Garner. You didn't see it with a lot of these other, you know, tragedies that have happened. You know, any loss of life is always going to be a tragedy. You know, whether they're, you know, straight-laced good citizen or whether they're a criminal. You know, I mean, unless they're out there being a serial killer and doing shit like that, then yeah, no, those people got to fucking go. But something like this, I mean, I've never seen it in this country where everybody agreed. Everybody. We're all outraged. From every community. Law enforcement side too. Like, no, that was fucked up.
Right.
You know? And then to have this guy arrested within 48 hours of the incident, that's unprecedented. We've never seen that happen before in an incident like this. No, but everybody wants to use false dichotomies or straw man arguments and saying, well, it's only because it was videotaped. We don't know that.
How much other shit was videotaped, dude? I mean, how much other video do we have? We have the video of that dude, I think he was in New York, was selling the single cigarettes, got thrown to the ground, sat on his ass, he died. Okay?
Yeah. It was Eric Garner, I think.
Eric, see, I'm terrible with names, dude. I'm really bad with them.
Well, so, I mean, this is all comes from our use of force training because they just beat it into us, you know, and we do that training quarterly. I don't know about other agencies, but every quarter we got to qualify on our firearm and we got to go through use of force training, and there's always a topic, you know, of what we're focusing on, you know, so we can claim that we are the best trained or that we are well trained in our duties and able to perform them correctly and with honor and compassion. So, you know, like, justice was covered pretty swiftly. He was arrested. I don't know if he's been arraigned yet. I think they're charging him with murder and manslaughter, probably murder 3 because it's not premeditated. Yeah. And I think they charge him with manslaughter just in case they find him not guilty on the murder.
Yeah, manslaughter 2, murder 3. Attorney General Barr came out yesterday and said that he's being investigated for federal charges as well. Right. And the possibility the other 3 might get federally charged as well. So, that's really fucking quick.
And yeah, I mean, but the thing is, it's like justice is never going to be swift enough.
Right.
Anyone, you know, and it's getting to the point now where I don't think they want justice. They want vengeance. You know, they're outraged. They're angry. And this is just another, you know, piece of kindling on a fire that's been burning for a very long time.
I think it's funny because, like they're saying, when the riots came back to LA this time, there was, I can't remember his name, like I said, terrible with names, should have written it down. But there was an actor that was tweeting there that there was a picture of a burning low income housing. The entire building was engulfed in flames. Okay, just gone.
Yeah, I saw those tweets.
Right. Burn that shit down, right? And then when they got closer to him,
now stop it. It's like,
So how do you see that kind of hypocrisy feeding into maybe some kind of deterrent? Because I mean, you got old boy from Star Wars that came out and just gave that expletive freaking laced fuck you if you're white, I hate you, racist white asshole.
John Bedoya.
Yeah. So right, but I mean, do you think, I guess it would be the better question, do you think that people seeing that kind of hypocrisy from these people might in some way change their mind a little bit?
I think it would, because you see, when you have people of power and influence like actors, you know, all these worthless people that we realize that we could actually live without.
Sure.
A pandemic. Yeah. You know, it showed us like, well, I don't really need sports. I I got plenty of movies that I can watch. You know, I don't need anything really new because most of us just I watch the same TV shows and movies all the freaking time because they're comforting.
Yeah, they are.
So,
hindsight.
Yeah. If you from a power of influence and your voice is a little bit stronger than just your common man, I guess. Why use it to stir shit up? Like, oh yeah, burn that motherfucker down. Oh, and then backpedal like an hour later, like, oh, it's developed next to me. They stormed the gates and da 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 da. It's like, well, you know what? If you came in with like to influence positively, hey, I support you. Your protests are valid. We're all outraged, but keep it civil. They'd probably listen.
Right.
There's people that hero worship and idolize these, these actors and sports stars and stuff. And if you came out there and just said, hey, listen, I'm outraged just like you are, let's not destroy shit. Let's not give them an excuse to go, see, I told you they were violent people.
Right.
Now
the one.
No, I was done.
Okay. I was going to say, how ironic do you find it? And maybe I'm misinformed, but I have not seen it happen yet, and I'll check out right after this. But how ironic do you see it that Colin Kaepernick has not been heard from?
It's very strange because he's very outspoken about police brutality. His statistics are wrong, and I didn't care that he kneeled and protested. He used his voice and he used his position. Personally, I think it was a stunt to keep him from getting fired from the 49ers.
Me too, yeah.
But I digress. So he
was getting stuck. But anyway.
And he took a nosedive as a quarterback. He used to be really good.
Yeah.
But him not appearing in this, even just to say "I told you so,"
exactly,
makes me question his convictions.
Yeah.
That
was one of the memes that I saw that really kind of also upset me. The one that said, if you aren't as upset about this guy kneeling as this guy kneeling, and they showed, Kaepernick and then the officer kneeling on Floyd's neck, why can't we be upset at both?
Yeah, it's not an either or situation. You can be upset at both, and that feeds into a lot of other things, that is completely wrong with today's society, is that just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you or fear you.
Exactly.
And that's something that's been kind of lost here in society, is that just because I don't agree with what he's doing. Okay, first of all, if you want to protest. You're not hurting nobody. I don't give a shit. That's what I fought for. It's what my brothers fought for. It's what my sisters fought for. It's what my brothers and sisters died for in foreign lands. Your right to protest peacefully. Armed revolt. Well, shit. Now we got another situation on our hand.
Right.
And
go ahead.
This country was found on revolution and revolting and giving a big fuck you to figures of authority when we don't like the way they're doing. But there's other ways we can do this now.
Right. I think you and I were talking about this before when I said that this is not the crowd that we want leading us into the next revolution.
Right.
If this does kick off, and let's say, the boog's happening and everyone's gearing up and we're going out and we're fighting the good fight, whatever happens. I don't want BLM or Antifa or any, equally right-wing extremist group being the one to lead us.
Yeah. We don't want extremists from either side. We need neutralists, logical thinking human beings. Not saying that we're completely void of emotion, because we're human beings, and that's what drives us to a lot of things. We have a fear instinct. We're happy, but everything's got to be done based on some form of logic. They got to ask themselves, and this is just my personal opinion, it's not the opinion of my agency or anybody that I work for, or even my company.
Right.
You demanded justice. The man was arrested. He's going to have his day in court. Now you can't be mad that's not happening quick enough. I mean, we're not going to do a kangaroo court just to satisfy the mob, because once we start doing that, the mob's always going to win. We set that precedent. Okay, well, we're investigating. Now, this was a quick investigation by the FBI, and also their Minnesota's IA, or Minneapolis's IA. They have a different name for it, but But they launched an investigation as soon as, like, within hours of that video coming out. They're like, hey, shit, we didn't know about this. You know, because those other 3 cocksuckers that were with him didn't say shit either, which also pisses me off. If you see something, say something. You know, one of those guys could have pulled that dude off him and been like, hey, man, he's already fucking secure, man. Get him in the fucking car.
Yeah.
So I had a point. Where was I going? I have no idea.
That's all right. I've done that to myself plenty of times, bro.
What was I talking about? Like the mob rule, you know, we can't do that. Because right now, and a logical thinking person will be like, okay, he's been secured, he's getting indicted, he's going to have his day in court. You know, why are we still protesting? Why are we still breaking shit? You know,
right.
Now we just sit back and we support the justice system. You know, we do that. You know, we give it all the support we can, and we stop burning shit, because now it's starting to get to the point where it invalidates the reason for their protests to begin with. Once violence starts getting mixed in there, and I know rioting is the voice of the unheard. I get it, but listen, you got hurt.
Yeah,
you got hurt. They investigated it so damn quickly. The president himself is like, no, FBI, get over there and do your shit.
Yeah,
you know, and they have a field office in Minneapolis, so they were right there.
Well, you know what's funny is, you know, that whole, a riot is the voice of the unheard is only part of the speech. And there's more to that speech. And I'm hoping I'm not combining 2 speeches. I might be, but I don't think I am. In that speech, he talks about that he will not riot. He will choose the path of peace instead, because a riot is ineffectual and self-destructive. In that very same piece. So, I mean, this was something that I got into with people as well yesterday, with, you know, talking about the Martin Luther King quotes, because Martin Luther King quoted more about not being violent and seeking peaceful means of protest and change than he ever did, as opposed to the other leader of that time, Malcolm X.
Yeah.
You know, if we're looking at those 2 people and people want to bring up a person that called for the violent overthrow of local governments and whatever due to the way they're treating the black man, that's when you cue up Mr. X. You know, I think they're being very disingenuous. Now, the right's just as guilty of doing this, because there's a quote by Gandhi that basically says, you know, something along the orders of, there's a time when you need guns, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, well, there is that line. And again, I think I'd lost my point this time. But going back to it.
Well, you were talking about the quote, the riots being the voice of the unheard.
Right. And looking at that and seeing people using these historical figures, if you were to quote a historical figure at this moment of one of our times of great national crisis, who would that be? And what do you think you would want to tell the nation?
You know what? I wish I had had that question beforehand. I would have had a better answer. I
know, and I dropped it on you, and everybody, this was literally thrown together at the last minute. So I'm putting them on.
There's a couple of things that run through my head, especially right now with, you know, Martin Luther King, is that hate begets more hate. You know, only love can beat it. You know, and love can be, you know, discussed in numerous ways of how you want to go about these things. Right now, I'm just seeing a lot of hate, and it's fueled in anger, and it's fueled in fear. And whether it's a rational fear or an irrational fear, it doesn't matter. They're still feeling fear. You know, and fear makes you do a lot of dumb shit, especially in a mob mentality. And that's something that we went through in our riot control training. It's like all you need is one dude to pick up that rock and throw it, and everybody else see it, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's okay."
Yeah, they're looking for that permission to take that next step.
We have that permission now, and if we all, and then they start getting in their head, well, if we all do it, they can't get all of us. So, you know, and you see it in videos of they were flipping a cop car. I'm not sure where it was at. It started off with like 3 people just getting wild hair up their ass and trying to flip over a cruiser. It was within 10 seconds, you had 15 people helping flip this car over. You know, it's that mob mentality, and it gets dangerous. It's get people hurt. You know, because
we saw that in LA after the Lakers won. We saw that one cruiser get caught on fire, another one get thrown like on its side and stuff, and it's just crazy. Well, I want to say thank you, my friend. I know you said you got to get going. I know you got to get to work and get your workout on.
Right.
I appreciate you giving us your insights, especially from your time, with the state government in California. I think that does open up a little bit more understanding as to why this isn't moving as fast as we would like.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Hey, remember, cops are humans too. We're doing a job. It's a tough job. The majority of us, actually, I'd probably say that 99% of us support everything that's going on with the protests, not with the rioting. You are being heard. We hear you. We will walk with you. Don't put us in a situation where we have to respond to violence. We don't want to do that. You know, we really don't. We don't need that on our soul. Some of us are combat vets. Some of us have to take human life. It's rough. It's nothing. It's something I wouldn't wish on anybody. You know, it's shit that keeps you up at night. So I don't want to hurt you. Please don't put me in a position where I have to, and please don't try and hurt me. You know. So and cut us some slack, man, because we're not all bad.
Right.
We're not all bad. We don't look at the population like that. You know, just because we deal with shitheads all the time, we don't look at the population as a whole as being bad. You know, we're kind of jaded and have a dark sense of humor, but other than that, we're not bad people. You know, we do this job because we care about our community and we care about keeping people safe. So if you're going to protest peacefully, you know, and call out the ones that are instigating it. You know, we're out here calling out our bad cops. Just because we don't put it on social media doesn't mean it's not being done. There's ways to go about it. We have the Joint Intake Center. We have internal affairs. We have all kinds of systems in place for us to remove bad actors from our organization because it affects us all. It affects us negatively in our ability to properly police and conduct our duties. You know, and it paints a bigger target. I'm sorry.
Now, do the people that would say, well, why don't you call them out publicly? Why don't you? And I mean, I know there's a reason why, and I'd like to say, you know,
legality, because once you expose it like that, then you start getting undue biases and influences from things. You know, there's a reason why we have those systems in place. Because we don't need that guy to just hightail it out and go do something else.
Right.
Because a lot of things, and, you know, unless it's a criminal charge, it's a felony charge, you know, if it's just, you know, misconduct, if they quit, they can't go after them anymore. You know?
Yes.
And then they just move on to another agency or, you know, something else, you know. But if we do it the way we're supposed to and allow these investigations internally to happen so they can get their slam dunk case. Get their slam dunk case and get this guy removed. And if he's done something criminal, definitely get him in fucking jail.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
That's why those things. That's why we talk about publicly.
Yeah, and I don't think many people are hearing this side of the story. They hear about, you know, like the cops that were standing around watching this dude. Do we know whether or not any of these people later on went on to make a report or were planning to make a report? Were they doing that? Yeah. Oh, no. These are more rhetorical, you know.
Right.
But we are operating off of a little bit of a lack of information. Would have one of those guys taken, you know, advantage of these internal, you know, checks and balances and whatnot? And I think that as a guy that is, you know, no longer affiliated with the government in any way, shape, or form, you know, I'm now Joe Civilian. I honestly think it might be a good. I mean, and for the most part, I do see the police departments doing it, coming out and condemning. But I think when it comes from more of like his peers coming out and being able to say, "Look, I'm not the chief of police. I'm not, you know, the commander of the watch or whatever it may be. I'm just a regular beat cop, and what he did offended me. What he did hurts me or whatever." You know, I think, but from like you were saying, the PR point of view, I know that that would go very far. But then I know what it's like to need to circle the wagons. I mean, Iraq, you know, you circle the wagons when you need.
And hopefully, I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but one of the great things I love about CBP is that we have a website called Trust Betrayed. So when we have dirty agents or dirty, officers, and after they're convicted, they go on that website. Their face is there. Their crime is there. Their punishment is there. And there's pages of shit. And I don't know if other departments or agencies do this. I hope they do, because it does. I think it instills a little bit more trust in the agency that we're not hiding shit. Yeah, we caught this fuckhead doing fuckhead shit. We tried him. We convict him. We're punishing him. He's now on this website, so his shame is there. And you know that we're keeping an eye on this stuff.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it's a public site. But Trust Betrayed. And it'll tell you everything from CBP officer to your patrol agents that I got caught being dirty.
Nice.
And I was at my station in Texas. I'll leave names out, but this guy had done some dirty shit at another station. It caught up with him 10 years later.
Oh, damn.
He tried to move stations to break away from him, but the guy was selling sensor lists on the border to the cartel. He was setting up avenues of fucking egress and ingress to run narcotics and human trafficking.
Jesus.
You read about this shit and you're like, how the fuck? And this guy was on my boat crew too. How I didn't know? Because when he was with us, he was clean as a whistle. He was the senior agent, and to see the FBI come in and fucking snatch his ass up in mustard. All of us there, fucking read him Mirandized him right there, and we're just like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck just happened?
Jeez, well, that's good to hear that things are getting policed up. I mean, it really is, and people need to know that.
The public really doesn't know, because we don't make it public until after it's all said and done. Hey, we got this guy, he's doing bad shit. He was making us look bad. He was violating his oath, and here's what we did to him. And that guy is now serving 12 years in federal prison. And as a law enforcement officer, you're not probably going to last. They're going to throw they're going to throw you in the shoe. So, or secure housing unit. That dude's fucked.
Pretty much. Well, yeah. Well, that's good to know, man. I mean, I think the more people can hear from people like yourself that are working in the system and know some of these things and can let us know. I mean, it really does bring back a sense of trust. It does. It's like, okay, well, the good guys that are wearing the uniform are keeping an eye on these shitbags. And like anywhere else, I mean, where shitbags congregate, it gets hard to break through the bullshit. So,
right. Well, and education is the key to anything. It's the key to understanding. And if you understand something, you don't fear it as much. So if I can get that word out there that things are being done and I can educate you in that, and if you can listen, that's the toughest hurdle, is getting someone that already has that bias against you to open their ears and have some understanding and listen to what you have to say.
Right.
Then that would change so many things going on right now.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants to feel heard. If they don't, like the quote is absolutely right. The right is the voice of the unheard. Whatever is beneath that right is what needs to be inspected. The riot itself, not so much.
Right.
Because riot would not have happened without the underlying condition.
Exactly.
Well, good, man. Thank you again. I do know you got to go. I kept you on here a little bit longer because we got into something interesting there, and
that's okay. I'll just I hate that part anyway.
Right.
I'll just go in there and throw away.
There you go. Well, man, thanks a lot, and be safe out there today. I don't know how bad the riots are going to be today for you guys out there, but just to let you know, we had 2,000 people protesting here in Kingman, and I almost wanted to laugh at how ridiculous that sounded, but the shit's spreading everywhere. So
people want to get involved, and that's fine. That's great. Just keep it civil, man. we're here. We're hearing you, even when you're breaking shit. But we're here.
We hear you louder when you break shit, because now we want to come kick your ass. Before we were listening, now we want to whoop that ass.
Yeah.
But
we just don't want people to get hurt. And when that stuff starts going down, that the chances of people getting hurt or killed or just innocents, they skyrocket, and we don't want that. We don't want that at all. So,
all right, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on, bro. Appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, man. And we'll get back to you another day, and we'll talk when you get some new comic book stuff out there. Let me know, and we'll review it. Or we'll let Brian review it. We'll just talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
You take care.
Good day.
Brought to you by Blue Cord Horde Brewing Company and Brute Squad members like yourself.